Let's talk about what happened in that kitchen. Let's strip away the badges, the politics, the media spin, and get straight to the facts. 36-year-old Sonia Massey was killed in her home by Deputy Sean Grayson. The moment went viral. The reaction was immediate, and the outrage was loud. But somewhere in the noise, someone you wouldn't expect threw gas on the fire.
I saw no overt action of her being a threat to him at all. Zero.
Zero. He says, like steam doesn't burn, like boiling water doesn't scald, like holding a pot over your head isn't, objectively threatening. Sheriff Judd, who's spent 30 years sitting at the top of the same department in the same county, is so sure this is horrible, he wants to turn it into a training video. But let me ask you this. How objective can you be when you've been in the same chair for 3 decades and made a brand off never blinking on police misconduct unless it happens somewhere else? Let's slow this down. Literally. The raw body cam footage shows Massey approaching the stove unprompted, picking up a pot with a blue flame underneath, glancing at officers, ducking behind a peninsula, then reemerging with the pot raised and hurled in the direction of Deputy Grayson. We're not saying Grayson had to shoot her. We're saying he believed within split seconds that hot liquid was being weaponized. But Judd, bless his politically photogenic heart, says, why didn't the backup take the pot from her? Why didn't they stop her at the front door? Why didn't the officer just let himself get boiled alive for the sake of optics? Sounds like hindsight bias from a man who's got a whole department watching his reaction like a scripture. Let's get real. Law enforcement isn't about being perfect. It's about making decisions. And the moment Massey lifted that pot, she escalated the situation from mental health check to potential deadly force. And to say she posed zero threat, that's not just disingenuous, that's dangerous. Because now you're telling officers, don't defend yourself unless you're burned. Don't act until you're attacked. Don't trust your eyes, trust your PR firm. Okay, let's slow this way down. You don't need a badge or a law degree to review body cam footage. You just need two things: eyes and the courage not to flinch when the facts don't match the feelings. So here's what the tapes show, frame by frame. Number one, the blue flame, active, visible under the pot. No dispute there. Number two, Massey walks towards the stove without being told. So she's just checking dinner? She was halfway to the stove before the officers could get a word out. That's not compliance, that's instinct. And instinct matters in volatile situations. Number three, she grabs the pot and glances sideways at the officers, not towards the sink, not towards the kitchen table, towards them. And the pot, not even placed safely on the counter, is teetering on the edge. You don't do that unless you're unsure or you're adjusting your grip for something else. And newsflash, it wasn't Tupperware. Number four, she crouches behind the peninsula counter. 5. Then, in exactly 7 frames, blink and you'll miss it, she reappears, pot in hand, arm up, eyes locked on Deputy Grayson. This is the key moment. The upward gaze, the arch of the elbow. The body mechanics are not defensive, they're offensive. She throws. Liquid, steam, a visible cascade of boiling water flies through the air. Not speculation, not imagined, it's on the footage. But Judd? Nah, he says there was no overt threat. Let me ask you this. If someone hurls a hot pot of water at your face and your reflex isn't to defend yourself, Are you a hero or a dead man? Number 7, the pot's final resting place. On an office chair, still steaming, not back on the counter. And the floor, wet, liquid pool. Grayson even says it aloud in the moment. Let's just call it what it is. Objectively threatening behavior. That doesn't mean Sonia Massey was a monster. It means that for a split second, she crossed a line from unstable to dangerous. And officers had to respond, not react, respond. Now enter Grady Judd. He watches the same footage and says she needed help. She did. But here's the part he leaves out. So did the deputy. You can't hold officers to a standard of perfect response under pressure while ignoring the danger that they were facing in real time. This wasn't just a mental health crisis. It was a high-stakes situation with a lethal potential. And that deserves nuance, not headlines, not the PR version, not the sheriff's soundbite special. And let's be real. If that footage happened in Polk County, if those deputies were wearing his uniforms, we wouldn't be talking about training videos. We'd be watching Grady Judd hold up mugshots of anyone but the deputies. He'd have a whole damn slideshow and a press conference locked and loaded by lunch. The tape doesn't lie, but people do. And when your sheriff is more concerned about optics than objectivity, you don't get truth, you get theater. We've seen the footage. We've analyzed every frame. The real question is, why hasn't he? Grady Judd has been sheriff in Polk County for nearly 30 years, which means this isn't his first mental health crisis, his first officer-involved shooting, or his first press conference. He's made a career out of walking into a room and making the whole damn county feel safe, and I respect that. But this time, he brought a flashlight to a house fire and called it leadership. Let's rewind the tape. Not the body cam, but the press conference. The little appearance on the PBD podcast where Judd says, if you thought she posed a danger, why did you let her go over there? Why didn't backup pour the boiling water into the sink? She wasn't a threat. Well, let's pick that apart. Number 1, why did they let her go over there? Oh, I don't know, Sheriff, because she's a grown adult in her own home and hadn't committed a crime yet. You don't get to handcuff someone for being weird. That's not de-escalation, that's a lawsuit. Number 2, why didn't backup pour boiling water into the sink? Because that's not how policing works. You don't barge into someone's kitchen and start handling their cookware. That's not help. That's how you escalate a mental health call into a full-blown confrontation. So, no, deputy number 2 didn't grab the pot. And thank God he didn't. That could have escalated way faster. Number 3, she wasn't a threat. You keep saying that, Sheriff, but the footage says otherwise. And not just any footage. Both body cams, multiple angles, confirming liquid, trajectory, intent. You've watched it, as you said, over and over and over, right? Okay then, how did you miss the throw? Because let's be real, if this happened in Polk County, Grady Judd would have had her mugshot on a screen and said, you throw boiling water at my deputy, you win a prize. That prize is getting shot by my deputies, graveyard style. But when it's not his deputy, suddenly the rules change. Suddenly he's seen no overt threat. It's not objectivity, it's optics. So let's talk about bias. Not the usual blue line bias. Let's talk about brand bias. Grady Judd's brand is the tough, no-nonsense lawman. But here's the uncomfortable truth. He's more interested in who pulled the trigger than why. If it's his guy, shield up. If not, mic drop. Let's even be generous. Maybe Judd's seeing it through the lens of experience. Maybe he's projecting all the what ifs and policy failures of the past. But here's the problem. You can't do an autopsy on judgment if you've already made up your mind. And when a sheriff uses his platform to throw two fellow officers under the bus for doing what they were trained to do, that's not moral clarity. That's a PR strategy disguised as accountability. So, Sheriff, if you're going to turn this into a what not to do training video, make sure you include the part where you condemn the officers without context, because that is what every rookie should be trained never to do. Grady Judd might be Polk County's favorite cowboy, but in this case, he's holstered the facts and went shooting from the lip. The case is bigger than one pot, one shot, or one sheriff, because when it comes to mental health, officer response, and public trust, we're all in the interrogation room now. Sonia Massey shouldn't be dead. That's not a judgment of the officer who pulled the trigger. That's a judgment of the entire system that showed up far too late. Let's look at the real question. Where was the help before the gun ever left the holster? It's always the same damn script. She had a record. She was acting erratic. We were just responding to a call. Right. A call for a woman boiling water in her own kitchen. You ever had a bad day and lit a burner out of habit? You ever argued with your own thoughts out loud? Congratulations, you just met 40% of the US population with untreated mental illness. Let's get clinical for a second. Women are more likely to experience mood disorders. Black women are less likely to be believed when they express distress. Mentally ill individuals are 16 times more likely to be killed by police during a crisis call. But the dirty little secret is this: police are often the only ones who show up. You know why that is? Because we turned every cop into a therapist, a babysitter, and a suicide negotiator, but forgot to give them the damn training or tools. We sent two guys in a polyester uniform and a Glock 17 into a therapy session with boiling water. That's not justice, that's a recipe. So what could have saved Sonia Massey? Not a gun, not a better deputy, not even a sheriff's soundbite. She needed prevention, de-escalation specialists, community mental health, and time. What she got was reaction, fast, loud, and lethal. We always get there after the fact, don't we? We don't knock on the door when someone misses their meds. We don't show up when trauma keeps them up for 5 nights straight, but we sure show up when they pick up a pot and we treat it like a bomb. And then we bury them under opinion columns and podcast sound bites. Here's the brutal truth. Deputy Grayson might have been legally justified in that split-second decision, but the tragedy wasn't the shot. It was every step before it. It was a woman unraveling in silence while the system waited for her to combust. So, no, Sheriff Judd, you don't get to slap a bow on this and call it a training video, because this wasn't a lesson in what not to do. It was a textbook of everything we refuse to fix, from how we train cops, to how we treat the mentally ill, to how we spin tragedy into teachable moments while mothers plan funerals. We'll let the investigators and the prosecutors decide whether Grayson's shot was justified. But this we know for certain. The system wasn't. And the next time you hear a sheriff simplify a woman's death into a soundbite, ask him where his voice was before she ever picked up that pot. Coming up next week on Uncovered, we're pulling back the curtain on qualified immunity and how the legal shield meant to protect officers has morphed into an untouchable wall of silence. Until then, stay angry, stay human, and always ask better questions. I'm Kyle. Good night.